What is going on, everybody? It's Ken, Beans Ball Card Blog, and what I'm gonna do today is a different kind of video. It's a tribute video to my uncle. If you've watched some of my previous videos, you know that I can be a bit of an emotional guy. I like to joke that I'm like Billy Bob from Varsity Blues at the end where they go, where I think it was Paul Walker's character. Who was that? I can't remember who it was. And he goes, and Billy Bob cried because, well, Billy Bob's a crier. Well, just call me Billy Bob. Sometimes I wish I could be different, but, it is what it is, and I am what I am. So I'm not going to show my face a whole lot. I'm just going to do a quick intro here, and then I'm going to turn the camera around. If you see some edits in there, I probably had to cut the video off. I've had to do that before, to basically not be bawling on camera. So that's what it is. This video is a quick tribute to my uncle. This is being uploaded on the 2-year anniversary of his death. And he's the reason I collect cards. We all have multiple men in our lives, or for the lady collectors, potentially ladies, that kind of make us who we are, that kind of form us, that we take things from, they teach us. And I was fortunate enough to have 3 of those men. I have my dad. I have, he was married into the family. His name was Wayne. He was my neighbor. Lost him a few months ago to ALS. When I was in junior high and high school, I was a bit of a loner. I still am. And just being around him, he at the time didn't have any children of his own. He ended up having 2 daughters later. But it helped get me through some rough times. He was really my best friend, and he was, probably in his early 30s, and I was in my teens. But, we bonded over sports cards, and things like that. And at some point, I'd like to do a tribute to him. But this is about my Uncle Don. He is the man that got me into sports cards. For Christmas 1986, one of my gifts from him and my aunt was a hand-collated 1986 top set, and it changed the trajectory of my life. I've been a card collector ever since. Started in 87, started playing baseball in 87, and there were some lean years of my collecting, especially in my early adulthood, when I was just out of college and just getting started in the real world. Funds were a bit tighter. But yeah, so because of that alone, he is, a huge part of who I am, because I'm 41 now. I'm a man, I'm 41, and I still collect little cardboard pictures of men playing sports. But yeah, so from that standpoint, there were little life lessons along the way. He was quick to let me know I wasn't as good at baseball as I thought I was. He had no problem letting me know that. We went to the field one day, and in the batting cages, he was throwing me, and I'm like, dude, you're throwing this ball too damn hard. He's like, this is the speed they're throwing to Jeff, who was my 4-year younger cousin. Baseball's a little different in West Virginia than it was in Alabama. The biggest life lesson I remember him telling me, that I agreed with, I guess I should say, is, I went to, he was, men don't hug, men shake hands. I don't necessarily agree with that. I'm not a huge hugger, but I can handle it. But I shook his hand, and he's like, that's not how you shake hands. I'm sure I had a very limp, weak handshake, and ever since that day, I've not made that mistake again. So, like I said, this is just a little tribute to him. Love you. Miss you, Uncle Don. It's funny, one last thing, I guess, before I turn the camera around. That's how we bonded as a kid at his funeral. My cousin, through marriage, it was my cousin Jeff, I mentioned him, his wife. She stood up and talked about how Uncle Don was he was an interesting man. he showed his love in different ways. And his way of, he wasn't going to tell you he loved you. And he could be grumpy, he could be stodgy. He was very, and even, to the very end on Facebook, he was very, very right. And when I mean that, I mean on the political spectrum. But if he loved you, you knew he did. And his way was gifts. And it's just funny how she said that. And I was listening and thinking, and I was like, yeah, I get it. Because he never told me that. He wasn't a hugger, but man, I know he loved me. And it's funny, he got out of card collecting for a while because of how everything changed, especially in the 2000s, where, you went from a handful of sets a year, you just couldn't collect anymore. He was a Ryan Klesko super collector. There's a reason I have a Ryan Klesko wallet card that unfortunately is not in my wallet because my wallet's too small for it. Eric might like that part. No, and I have a wallet card. I actually have 2 wallet cards. But he was a Ryan Klesko super collector. There were a couple other guys at that time. And he would show me on eBay how they would turn what should be a $4 card if they all 3 needed it. It ended up going for $100 on eBay. The good old days, man. eBay was a wild, wild west. But he stopped collecting because it just got too ridiculous. And there in his last handful of years, it kind of brought us together again. Because of social media and things, we were Facebook friends, and then we talked on the phone, and when I was younger, he was the master and I was the apprentice. Not to steal that from JT, but it was funny that in those, the last conversation we had, I was the master and he was the apprentice, and it was just funny how it all came full circle. And I'll talk about this one piece of mail. And how it sums up that last conversation or how it relates to it. So I'm going to flip this around and show you that real quick and a couple of other things. All right, so what you see in front of you, not necessarily the clearest because I'm taking this video with the iPad. I'm still going to get it. I've got the video camera from my MacBook. I'm going to get going on that eventually, I keep saying. So what you see there, I talked about, before I turned the camera around, about gifts, and that was how he did. Those 2 cards were my college graduation gift. These are 2 cards that, if I got rid of everything else and kept 10, or it doesn't matter, if I got rid of everything else, I'm never getting rid of these. They have that sentimental value to me well beyond any monetary value. As I'm purging, been purging collection over the years, I only want to keep the stuff that means something. I want it to evoke a memory or a pleasant thought or something like that, and that's what these 2 do. Bear in mind, I graduated from college in December of 2001, so that McGuire was monetarily worth way more than it is now, and probably the Ripken was too, because we were still in the early days of eBay, and in a lot of ways, eBay has been great for the card community, but it's also been bad in some ways in that it's made so much available that wasn't necessarily available at local card shows or shops before. So I'm sure both of these prices are significantly less than they were 19 years ago when he gave those to me. But I did want to show those off. I'm going to do a response video to I'm having a brain fart. But he asked for the most wax pack poetic or something, but you'll see in the coming days. He asked what your most valuable card is, and not valuable from a monetary standpoint, but from a personal standpoint. These 2 are not going to be that card, but man, they're up there. They're easily in my top 3, 5. They're on my Mount Rushmore. So anyway, I mentioned, toward the end, I had become the master and he was the apprentice. And the reason I say that is he needed 1 card that he was working on to complete his Rocky Colavito playing day run. Now, I know he had this card in a set because he has had every set from, I don't know, probably about 56, 57 on. And had those, when I was a little kid, so he had those a long time ago. But Rocky Colavito was his favorite player. Colavito played for the Indians in his earlier years, I think. Yeah, earlier years played for the Indians. Later years, I can't remember. But my uncle grew up, some of his early years in Ohio, and I think they were they were toward Akron, Cuyahoga Falls. Still have family there from that side of the family. Not that particular branch, but that side. And like I said, Rocky Colavito was his favorite player, and as he got back into cards later in life, the last time we chatted on the phone, he was asking me questions about a card he needed and what I thought and what he should do. And I don't know if he ever got that card. I just don't know. I don't know that even if I asked my two cousins, I don't know that they would know if he actually got it, other than if when they went through his card playroom, man cave, if they found it. But I have purchased the card from a local... The wanting to do this video just hit me a couple of weeks ago. So I was kind of in a rush to find this card and find it at an affordable price. This was the note that came. He's a local seller. He sets up at our monthly shows. His name's Dave, and his son Justin is a great kid. He's a senior in high school, junior in high school. Good kid. I've seen that kid grow up over the last 5+ years. Great kid. But he left me this little note, which will stay with this card. Glad we could help out, Ken, and thanks for thinking for what you wanted. And I kind of told him what I was going to do with it. But, I didn't tell him everything. I'm going to send him this video because he was interested to see. This is the card I picked up. This is the 1961 Topps Home Run Leaders from 1960. And it is the last card that my Uncle Don needed for his playing day Rocky Colavito collection. It's the second, I guess I should say, playing days mantle that I have. I have a checklist that I pulled out of a grab bag one time from like 67, 68. But that's not what's important about it. So you got, sorry about lighting, it's not as great as it could be. What do we got there? We got Mickey Mantle on top, and then as you would read a book, Roger Maris, Lemon. Not even sure who Lemon is. Bet you it'll tell me on the back. It's not going to tell me on the back. Somebody tell me how stupid I am, that's fine. But right down there on the lower right is Rocky Colavito. This card, the Rocky Colavito aspect, isn't it? That's not why I had to have this card. It's not the Mickey Mantle, and this isn't the. But what it is for me is it's that last card he needed. It's the last card we talked about, and that card now has a place in my collection. It will not leave this collection until the collection is no longer mine, because I have left and my wife has to get rid of all of my cards. It's just the sentimentality, and every time I look at these three cards, which are always going to be together, I'm always going to think of you, Uncle Don. So, welcome to my collection, Mr. Colavito. And I hope you're doing okay up there, Uncle Don.